So thanks everybody for joining us today for today's town hall. I'll just quickly introduce the people who are going to be speaking today. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit echoey here. Just have to bear with me for a little bit. So we have Joanne Liability, who's our Executive Director. We have Jennifer Harkness, who's the Director of Finance and Admin. Alicia Liddams, who's the Director of Volleyball Operations. And we are going to have Tori Caputo, who's a part of our Regional Council Chair. And for those who don't know me, I'm Caitlin Arscott. I'm the Indoor Programs Coordinator. So that is the people who will be speaking today. Hope I got everybody. So we'll just quickly pull up the agenda here, what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about. And then what you can do is type away all of the questions that you guys have throughout the presentation, just in the chat, and I'll keep track of all of those. And then we'll have a question period at the very end of the presentation, and we'll bounce off some questions there. So what we're going to do today is, first off, we're going to have Tori, who's going to discuss the Regional President's Council and their role. Then we will have Jen, who will be talking about club administration for the upcoming season. And that also includes insurance and how to get it and what it entails, and then the new MRS registration system that we're going to be moving on towards, hopefully. And then we'll finish off here with Joanne, who's going to discuss the community use of school permits, as well as the return to play compliance. And then we'll have a quick question and answer period. And then, yeah, that's what we'll do for today. All right, so we'll pass it along to Tori.
Can everybody hear me?
Not quite.
No, not so much. Oh. Did we lose them? Oh, Danny, you might be speaking.
All right, well, in that case, here.
I'm stuck here.
Oh.
Maybe. Either Danny, who is also part of the Regional President Council, or Tori will speak.
Hello, hello.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
All right, am I back?
You're back.
To
Yes.
run it off my network. Okay. Hello, everyone. I don't know if you can see me, but I can't see you. Anyways, I'm
Tori, we've lost you again. Sorry to cut you off.
We also have Danny Gosling, who is
Sorry. Danny, do you want to jump in? Sorry. Everyone, Danny Gosling, our Region 2 president. He's also a board of director for the OVA, and he's the regional chair, council chair.
Danny doesn't like to talk too much. Can you hear me? Am I unmuted?
I'm good.
Okay, so anyways, what Tori was going to go through in the first slide, which I don't have up yet, just give me 2 seconds, was just to introduce the regional presidents, and then we'll go through a quick synopsis of what our roles are within the governance of the OVA. Tony, who is the Northern Region 1 president, I think it's the largest regional geography-wise in terms of the of all the regions, is from Region 1. I'm obviously from Northeastern Ontario, Region 2. Tori, who was just trying to talk, is from Region 3. And then Kiana is from Region 4, and Danielle Schumer is from Region 5, and Irina Zamboni is from Region 6. So these are all the regional presidents. And if you skip to the next slide, I'll go through real quickly what our roles are as regional presidents within the governance. The first is the effective communication of two-way dialogue between the regional council and the OVA board and the executive director, Joanne. We basically meet now probably once every 2 or 3 weeks, and we discuss important topics, and then I report back to the board as the chair, and then I speak to the executive director whenever necessary. I spend most of my time communicating with Alicia, who is the staff member assigned to support our board. We provide leadership to the regions. We help to follow the strategic plan. We try to support the OVA's strategic plan through the regions. So planning and following through with the high performance programs, especially the 14U high performance program, which is a regional program, and the white program, which I was a part of 2 years ago now as a mentor coach. We discuss and we bring concerns to the OVA staff from the regions. So we share information back and forth, hopefully with good communication, to provide an opportunity for smaller clubs that would generally not have the ear of the OVA an opportunity to be heard. And then we bring forward these issues, and hopefully we have issues that we can resolve with support of the OVA staff. We do financial planning. We spend a great deal of time looking at our finances and how we can effectively use regional money to support athletes in the community at all levels, at the regional and at the high performance levels as well. And then I've been helping with the strategic plan. I've been involved in the strategic plan from the beginning. And then we address issues and implement changes, especially when it comes to the OVA tryout window, indoor youth competition changes, athlete development programming, and we were involved in the helping with the hotel bookings for provincials and setting policies and hopefully supporting as much governance as possible. Okay, well, I hope I went through everything. Did I get it, Alicia? So again, this is just a regional breakdown of what the province looks like in region 5 being the largest at GTA. And actually wait, I think region 3 is the largest, and then region 5 is the second largest in terms of volume. And then I think the order is 4, and then 6, and then 2, and then 1. So those are our roles.
Thanks, Danny.
And that's how to contact them as well. So then I believe we are going along to Jen.
Hello, everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some risk management stuff for the clubs. I know if any of you have been on previous town halls, that you've probably heard some of this information a few times, but we want to be very clear as to what risks are associated with COVID and return to play and how our insurance works. So the biggest thing to know is if you are not following the return to play protocol, you will not be covered by OVA insurance. One of the biggest reasons is because our insurance does not cover illegal activity. So if you are not following return to play, you're actually violating the law because these bylaws and legislations are in place and they're government mandated. So once again, it's not an OVA, we just want to do this. We actually will not be covered for any illegal activity that violates all of the current COVID policies, practices, legislations. In terms of what is covered by insurance, COVID is not covered. No insurance that I've heard of, insurance policy, is issuing coverage for any COVID-related claims. So if you are not following our return to play protocol and you do have a claim, what's most important is that you have mitigated risk to the fullest. So what will happen is the claim will be filed, and if you can prove that you've been following return to play, you've been mitigating risk of people getting COVID in your programs, practices, etc., then you'll have a better foot to stand on in terms of any lawsuits related to someone contracting COVID through an activity that your club is offering. So once again, COVID is excluded for everybody, anybody, in terms of the insurance policy, whether you're following return to play or not, but the return to play following that will mitigate your risk in a lawsuit. It'll improve your defense, basically. Our insurance has two pieces to it. There's a sport accident piece and a liability piece. The sport accident piece is just an extra something we offer to our members. If they have an accident in an OVA program, then they can file a claim with us, and that means they can be supported for things like physio, hospital, prescription drugs, etc., over and above what their personal benefits offer. The biggest piece of our policy is liability, and that is where your club is really, really protected. As long as you're following our policies and your members in good standing, then the liability will cover you if your club is sued for anything related to an OVA program, sanctioned anything related to OVA members. Exclusion, when I talk about COVID being excluded, it just means it's something that is not covered under the policy. And risk mitigation, I spoke of already in terms of just trying to mitigate your risk with respect to COVID. If you ever have any questions on insurance, feel free to email me or info@Ontario Volleyball. The other thing I'm going to mention with respect to insurance is that right now, a lot of people are trying to be creative in terms of finding places to play, finding places to train. We've had a lot of insurance questions regarding using someone's backyard grass court or someone's backyard beach court. The one thing I will say is if you're going to especially use a private property, what you want to do is contact the OVA and have us add that individual who owns that property as an additional insured on our insurance. What that means is if that individual is sued for anything happening during that practice or training, and that our policy will hit first in terms of covering them. If they are not added as an additional insured on our policy, their homeowner's insurance will get hit first with the claim before our insurance policy. So they will be covered for liability, but their homeowner's policy will be the first one that has to cover the claim before our insurance. So 100% if you're using a parent's or someone else's property, make sure that you get an insurance certificate with that individual added. Okay.
Jen, can you also speak to just the process of how the clubs need to go about getting insurance for the upcoming season? Just like the steps, just a friendly reminder.
You mean in terms of getting insurance certificates?
Like a certificate for the upcoming season, since we're still in this current season, just a reminder of like the steps they need to email Sherry or fill out the form and all that stuff.
So there is a section on our website that has all of the information with respect to obtaining an insurance certificate. There's links to the form, the insurance certificate form. What I can tell you right now is that because of COVID, the renewal of insurance policies is all backed up. So our policy is actually not renewed yet, even though we contacted them a month or two ago. So if you are looking for an insurance certificate for the next season, starting in September, we do not have insurance for that season yet. We're not worried that we won't have it. It's just that the paperwork is all backed up because of COVID. So once we are available to start issuing insurance certificates, I think we will probably send something out to the clubs saying you can start applying for your insurance certificate. And at that time, we will also provide links to the forms and how to get those insurance certificates. MRS, the new baby. So what we are doing finally is doing a little update to our registration system. We had an RFP out earlier last year and looked at a whole bunch of vendors in terms of doing a new registration system. And after all of that searching, what we decided and realized through comparing and contrasting all of the people who submitted RFPs was that the best offer came from Crestline, who is the company that currently runs NRS for us, to do an upgrade and a rebrand of the current system to basically make it Ontario only instead of the old NRS system, which was something that was initially initiated by Volleyball Canada. We thought that there would be less of a learning curve for our clubs. Financially, it made sense. And in terms of what the system could offer, because a lot of it was already built, all the specialty things that we wanted for our members were already in the system. It made the most sense to go with them. So this is just a little screenshot of the login password, the new system. So just a couple things that are going to be important with the new system. We've made a decision not to import member data purely from a sort of cleansing of data perspective. A lot of the data and member accounts that we have in NRS are duplicated. The information is wrong. The addresses are wrong. We have email addresses that are club emails for 30 different players. So it's not an effective tool for communication because of the errors in there, and it's not an effective tool to reach out to members in terms of sharing important information. So we really want to get clean data. So we are going to ask everybody to register from scratch in the MRS system. And, you know, it's a decision that we felt needed to happen. In the new system, your username is now going to be your email address. This is one of the big things that most new systems do to prevent duplication of accounts. So you cannot have, you know, 5 people in one family with the same email address. I understand that, you know, you may need to have a few different family members registered. It's pretty rare these days that kids don't have their email address. And if the parent still wants to be the main contact for those accounts, you can still put the parent's email address as the email address on the account. This is just for the username. Number 2, in terms of how you start up, it's not very different from how you would have done it in the past. You club contacts have to pay their full membership fee and register as a club contact. And then there is a link that you can see shown in the print screen here for returning clubs. This is how we are going to collect what used to be a club information form information. So we will now be submitting a club information form online, so we don't have to collect all that paper from the clubs. So as soon as, in order to create your club, you need to fill out the information on the club form. Everything's collected electronically by fillable PDFs. And then after the form is entered, you can edit and continue to enter staff, and PRC VSS info is required. It's not, you know, I submit the form and it's locked. We do understand that you'll have to collect some of this information after you've created your club in the MRS, but once again, we want this all to be online, no more paper. So in terms of athlete registration, I'm just moving here. All athletes must register their own account. We are not going to allow clubs to create accounts for athletes anymore. This is really, really important these days because of some of the legislation that's come out and some of the liability regarding waivers, etc. All of the waivers will be online. So in order to sign a waiver, you have to create an account, which means I need that individual to go in and create their own account so they can sign their own waiver. It's also very important for Rowan's Law legislation. I'm not sure if the next slide talks more about this, unless they've changed the slides on me. Nope. Okay, back up. Sorry. Did you edit this? So Rowan's Law is the concussion legislation, and according to that legislation, every person who signs up to be a member must attest to the fact that they've reviewed certain concussion resources, and that they've done, and they're signing off on the concussion code of conduct. So nobody can register for someone else because according to Rowan's Law, you have to attest to these things yourself. So all of that attestation will be held in MRS, once again, as well as waivers, which will now include a COVID waiver. which is something that needs to be signed before participating in any club activity, any OVA activity. The coaches and the club staff need to register themselves as well, so that they can sign off on the waivers. We cannot have club contacts signing off on waivers for coaches, etc. If the club wants to pay for the coach's membership, they can register the coach. The coach can register themselves as a volunteer or something, a free membership, just so they can sign the waivers, and then they can get upgraded by the club contact to a full coach membership, and the club contact can pay for that membership. Next. So another thing that we're doing this year that is quite a bit different is due to the uncertainty regarding when the indoor season will start and the delay of the indoor season, we don't want people to have to pay a full OVA membership this early in the season. So if athletes are practicing all fall but won't be competing until January, we don't want them to have to pay a full membership now. So what we're saying is that you can kind of graduate your membership throughout the fall. New this year is all tryout participants need to be registered as OVA members, whether they've made a team or not. So in order to attend a tryout, they need to register an NRS. We have added a tryout role in MRS. It's a free role. It's got $0 membership fee. So the tryout players just go in the MRS, register as a player, pick the tryout player role, pay nothing, sign the waivers, and then move on. So for tryouts, per the chart below on this slide, you need to register as a tryout player or a recreational player if you want. For club practices, we are allowing individuals to register as recreational players for the fall, just for practices prior to competition starting. So once again, that's us allowing you to pay just the $10 or $12 plus tax recreational player fee instead of paying the full $80-something just to train in the fall. And then once the OVA competition starts, you will upgrade to a full competitive membership. So this chart is just a way to say, you know, for what activity you need what level of membership. For us, if, you know, the clubs don't want to worry about going in and upgrading all these memberships to competitive players, you know, later in the season, we have no problem with people registering as competitive players now, registering as competitive players for practices. All we're saying is we will allow you to be a recreational player until competition starts. I hope that makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you, Jen. Now we're going to just switch it over to Joe for all the good stuff.
All right. Thank you, Kaylin. Thanks, Jen, for all that new info for the MRS system. It ties back in with our compliance and our checklist for return to play. So lots of really important topics tonight, but I just wanted to even back up to our regional council and thank them not only for coming on and giving us a little presentation today, but all the engagement that they've had leading up to this point. They've really helped us to get a better look at what's happening with clubs. So please, you know, reach out to Danny, reach out to your regional president, and Danny. He chairs the group and he's sharing a lot of information with us, and he's been working a lot with our comp team on reviewing all of these changes this season. As we know, this season's new. It's not something that we've had before. And there's a lot to work through. So thank you for joining this town hall. I really appreciate the engagement we've been getting from our community as we work to share all this information. It's a lot to really tackle, and back to the return to play, which has been a number of town halls in the past. So I encourage you to go back and look at our latest return to play town hall on indoor. There's some more information in there if you haven't already. Also reach out to us with any questions. The frequently asked questions is also posted online. So there's lots of information to be shared on our website. But we did just I wanted to touch base, and I'm not going to go through the entire return to play protocol. But what I did want to say is we're working on a compliance checklist. So again, we appreciate this was sent in by a member of saying, hey, can you make us a checklist? We've been talking about the return to play a lot and trying to check all the boxes and trying to make sure you haven't forgotten everything. It's confusing. It's a lot of knowledge to take in. It's a very it's a long protocol. So we'll go from there. So one of the things just to look at to start is risk mitigation assessment checklist. Are we ready to operate? Is our club able to mitigate enough risks to operate? So that's an important checklist. I'm going to skip over the facility compliance for a moment because I'm just going to go to the acknowledgement form. That's the one related to get your insurance, as Jen was referring to. So once we have the new policy in place, and if you're operating now, you send in the acknowledgement form so we can issue the insurance certificate. This is an understanding of that your club knows that there's the return to play protocol and that you will be in compliance with it. The facility compliance, there's an appendix within the return to play that provides how do I have the discussion with my facility? How do I start it? What do I need to know? What is the compliance that the facility will require? So not only is there the return to play from the OVA, but the facility will also have requirements for you. So you have to also make sure you know what those are from the facility standpoint as well. And then within our return to play protocol, there's an education piece around COVID, who's operating for your club, your coaches, even your participants. Do they know your protocol? Do they know what it is to exit and enter into your practice? What is the health screening process that you're going to be following? Some clubs are kicking in and using Team Snap. So there's different protocols that the clubs are layering in. So making sure that everyone understands the piece of that. The response plan around COVID, we covered off the waivers. So waivers must be completed. Health screenings must be done for every time there's any activity. Making sure that participants are health screened, tracking those participants, and then the modified programming that is in the return to play protocol. Make sure you're aware of what that is, what you're allowed to do. And that's the piece that there's an indoor and outdoor components in our return to play. So the compliance checklist will get posted this week on our website, and we'll share it. And then I just wanted to talk a little bit about, well, as I try to advance my screen, a little bit about facilities. Obviously a concern. So there was, first, I'm going to go to my second bullet first about government regulations and clarifying some of that. There was an announcement just on Friday. So the sports have been in a lot of conversations around what do these capacity limits mean? What does it mean when you have a facility with 3 arenas, a gym, a workout area? What does that mean? Some facilities were taking it so far to say that that's all, there's 50 allowed in all of those areas. So the Premier stepped up and our minister, and they've clarified that those capacity limits per the government regulation are on a per room basis. So that's very helpful for us. So it applies to the gymnasium, the health clubs, the community centers, any multi-purpose facilities, arenas, your exercise studios. So you can have 50 in the gym, you can have 50 in one ice pad, 50 in another ice pad. So that's the government regulation. They've put that clarification out, updated the laws, and we're anxiously awaiting for their next clarification and expansion on the rules for leagues. So I know there's been further discussion around that. And another thing that we're working on, and I say we as in the OVA, we've joined forces with basketball, with OVA. So the executive director there, Jason Jansen, we've both been in contact with the ministry. We have the same ministry rep, but we've also gone through to the sport manager, the there's a lot of acting people, and they're an acting director of sport, and they're aware of our concern about school permits not being issued for community use. The ministry is aware. They're also very extremely concerned about it, and they are. We're still working to work with them on that, and we'll have some meetings and we'll look to some options, because the other group that's heavily affected by that is it's a recreation program that our ministry runs, and that's the after-school program. So with those 3 strong community uses needed, we're going to the ministry. We're obviously going to share with them about half the time our kids, when they come for practice, they're entering in the side gym and not entering any other part of the school. Like there's a real case in the high schools that there's no reason why volleyball practice couldn't happen. Club activities and school sports, even though schools aren't running them, it was still provided with the green light from the government. So this is something that we'll continue to work on and continue to update you on. But it was really important that I want to share this point, that I know this is a big concern, obviously for our entire community and for our sport to happen. So keep staying positive, keep reaching out to your permit office. And if you do have any updates, feel free to send them in to us, because we have been tracking and looking at what the different school boards are doing. So Alicia, safe to say, send it to Kelvin. Kay Chang?
Yeah. Realistically, though, we did, Joe, I haven't talked to you today because it's been a crazy day, but know that we did see a blanket statement today across the board that community use of school permits most likely are not happening, but there's no time frame or expectation that it'll be by January, November. I know originally York Region District said by November to start reaching out again to look for additional permits, but we're just going to keep knocking on their doors and being that annoying association, trying to get more information and answers for everyone.
Yeah, we're going to put the ministry behind this, because it has to be pointed out also to the Ministry of Education that the permit revenue that the school boards are losing, they're just turning around and asking the government for that funding. So I think there's really something that if we share these concerns and make sure they understand the impact of this, then hopefully we can make a bit of progress is our goal. So we don't have any answers yet, but we will keep working on this, and this is on the top of our list with this. And that's something where I've also been meeting with a few other the team sports that communicate into the subcommittee that goes into the ministry. So we're working on this, and we just want you to know that we don't have answers, but like I said, and I'm going to say it again, we're going to do our best to see if we can get this concern addressed, and at least get some answers too from that standpoint. So from that, we really get into, we have some more town halls planned. So, please join us again. You can check out the website to see when they're scheduled. Also, if you have topics that you do need some further information on, also send that in, because those are some of the future dates that we will be filling in agendas and topics with some things that are the hot topics that need some further clarification. So we will move to our questions. Caitlin, if you have anything that you would like to cover off for us.
Awesome. So Alicia's been speedy on the keyboard and trying to answer most of the questions, which is awesome. But I did pull a couple of questions that haven't been answered yet. If none of us answer any of your questions, feel free to email any one of us or info@Ontario Volleyball, and we'll make sure to answer them as soon as possible. So first, I'm just going to start off with Jen. Question for you. Can you just elaborate on the insurance application process and the required forms, so that in previous years you could send a letter to a school board and keep your permit on hold until insurance is valid, Are we doing anything like that this year, or like what's that process like?
To me, that sounds like a process that is initiated by the board, not us.
So just to clarify, in the past, we would submit to the club that this club is in good standing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of course. If that's something that they'll accept, the particular facility, yes, we'll continue to do that.
Okay, so they just email Sherry
Yep.
a letter?
Yep.
So either C. Bennett or info@Ontario Volleyball, and Sherry will get you guys that letter.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you mentioned the insurance letter, that the insurance form that you'll notify all the clubs about when everything's good to go. Is it going to be the same form as last year?
Exactly the same. Yeah. It's the process has not changed at all in terms of requesting that information. So whatever you did in the past, you'll do now.
To whoever wants to answer it, what happens if you register as a club,
have to go
your tryouts, and you're allowed permits, but then all of a sudden you can't become a club because you can't get the permits, or things have switched because of COVID? Is there a policy in place or a process for refunding? How's that work?
Alicia answered this in writing, so I'm going to make her elaborate on her answer.
Yeah, so, oh God, what did I write? In terms of clubs, yeah, not happening. There isn't a policy per se. What we have been discussing in-house is a lot of, you know, what we've been saying on these calls for the last month and a half is we all have to be flexible and fluid with what is thrown at us. So we're trying to get a town hall session thrown together for next Monday, just kind of talking about a club best practices from other club to club kind of thing. And what we've been chatting with people on potential panel members is, as a club, instead of, I know we always usually have like our budgets, their plans for the entire full year, but what can we do in terms of segment? So it's like we have a fall segment. So if we can run training with this athletes, this is what we're going to do. If we can charge a certain amount, if we can move to the next segments from like January to March to run some sort of events or tournaments, then this is what it's going to cost. So it's almost just like mini plans and an overall operational plan for the year for the club. I know it's a lot of work, believe me. You know, we've been banging our heads off the wall for the, you know, since March, trying to do these plans that keep changing with information that changes from day to day, week to week. So realistically, that's why we're also saying and asking people not to pay full membership up front. We want to make sure that there's insurance coverage for those clubs. And obviously we're going to work with clubs if they have to dissolve for this year while COVID is going on, to see if we can work with other clubs that maybe are operationalizing to get kids and athletes and coaches and whomever to keep playing and participating in the sport. We also want to make sure, you know, that we're talking to the parents to get them to understand that yes, it may not be volleyball in the traditional sense that we are all used to, but it's still that sense of belonging and getting that mental and physical activity and belonging of the group and the teams and the cohorts to keep that moving forward. So is that a great answer for you guys? Probably not. But once again, it's not one that we can answer because it's not an easy answer. It's all something that we have to work on and figure out what is going to happen. You know, we may not have a season. So how do we keep people engaged in our sport, and how do we keep them through you, the clubs, who are the ones that are getting them on the court? So this is something we have to work together towards. So I'm hoping that helps a little bit, but stay tuned for more information for hopefully Monday, fingers crossed. We're working with Regional Council on that one. Joe, Jen, anything else?
Yeah, I just want to add, we will also be fair. You know, if 100 clubs sign up and pay their club fee, and then we all go back to stage 0, you know, 3 weeks later, I'm not going to say too bad, so sad to all these clubs if they don't end up doing any activity for the entire season. We're not looking to cash grab here. We do have to have you register as a club, and if you're running activity, we need that in terms of insurance coverage, etc. But once again, if everyone gets shut down and nothing's happening and you don't offer any programming because you're legally not able to, we will be fair. Joanne may be mad at me for that, but we'll do the right thing by the clubs. She won't be mad at me.
Okay, and then last question just popped up here. Are you speaking to the Ministry of Education or to individual boards? aka should clubs continue to discuss with their local boards about upcoming permits or upcoming tournaments and practices?
Are you giving this one to me?
You or Alicia, whoever wants to go.
Yeah, I got it. So absolutely continue to speak to your local boards about your upcoming permits, because it is board by board. Their plans are submitted individually into the Ministry of Education. What we're doing we're going through our appropriate government channels, which is through the Ministry of Sport, the big long one, Heritage, Sport, Tourism, Culture, or something, MIH. So that's where, in order to get the right channels of communication through the government, we go through our sports rep, which takes to the sport manager, and we've taken it up to the assistant deputy minister. So we are at that point where the ADM for sport, which then has the contacting with our Minister of Sport. That's the important part. So we're taking it that way, but we don't have a direct route into the Ministry of Education. So continue to work with your direct school boards and where you usually get your permits from. And I would also stress community centers. Community centers are also behind the 8 ball with their revenues. And I know in the past they've been difficult, said, no, we can run our own programming. We don't need to rent out. But you may find that they may give you up some more rentals because they are going to be held accountable for bringing in some revenue. And a lot of times their programs don't fill because we all know they're not really, sometimes aren't run the best. So they also may be looking for some other programming that would be quick rental revenue. So don't hesitate to look into community centers where you may not have historically gone. And we've been saying, like, knock on churches, like they have some gym space at times. Like you can find courts in other places that you may not have looked before.
And the only thing I'll add to that is, but please keep safety in mind. Our insurance broker has said that, yes, of course, look for alternative facilities, alternative courts. But he has asked that, the club or someone, at a higher level, go and make sure that the court is safe. If you're using someone's backyard or you're using a gym in a church, because, we don't need the insurance will cover us. But there's a lot involved in all of these things, and we want to make sure our athletes are safe.
And that's where the community centers are a great option, because they are run with some good safety.
Perfect. So that's all the questions that we had submitted today. But again, if anybody feels like they have another question that they are thinking of now or think about later, feel free to send us an email. So thank you everybody for joining. I think that's everything for today. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we do have some town halls that are coming up. We have one next Monday, and then I believe so, right? Yes, yeah. Next Monday, and then we are moving to bi-weekly in September. So we have two, so Monday, August 24th, Monday, August 31st, and then bi-weekly in September. We have the slide here of all the different topics, so take a look at that. And I think that's everything. So we'll post this recording, this town hall on our website. It'll be on the town hall section of the website. So you can register for the next ones, but you can also watch this recording as well. So again, thank you everybody for being here tonight. And that's all. Have a good night.